So let me know what you guys think. I was just thinking about this Iran situation that we have going on right now, and Ukraine and Syria and Libya and Somalia and Venezuela and Iraq too, Afghanistan. You know, it seems like we sure do get our hands in a lot of situations around the world. This channel is not a political channel. This channel, I like to focus on famous veterans, veteran history, veteran stories, things like that. But I was just thinking about it because when I joined the Army back in 1990, I went straight to the Gulf War right after I finished basic training and my job training, which was actually what they call OSUT training, one station unit training, which many of you guys may have gone through the same thing, but I was a combat engineer, so I went straight to the Gulf War. And I remember right before I joined, my mother was telling me, don't go, they're gonna send you over there. And I was like, well, I'll be a brand new, trainee, I'm not going anywhere. And of course, naturally, I graduated and went straight over there. But I didn't really think about the mission or the purpose of us being there because I was, a 20-year-old stupid kid. And I think I just went over there and did my thing and didn't really think about why we were there until maybe 15 years later. I got deployed to Bosnia in the late 90s, then Kosovo after that. And even when I went to those deployments, I wasn't really thinking about the geopolitical reasons that we were there. I was just doing my job, being a good soldier or an NCO or whatever. At the time, I wasn't thinking about, why are we there and how's this affecting the world and how's it affecting the people that are serving in the military. I think about it now because, first of all, I'm older. Second of all, I'm more mature. And when I got out of the military, I didn't really know what I was going to do or, what direction I was headed in. But once I figured that out, once I went to school and I became a respiratory therapist, after that, I started thinking about, well, when I was in the Army and when I went to Desert Storm and Bosnia and Kosovo, what were the reasons that we were actually going there? And I knew the basic, general idea, the stories that were told us for like Desert Storm. We have to liberate the Kuwaitis because the Iraqis are taking over. And then of course Bosnia was, they told us this is a cultural civil war and, has to do with religion and all this other, I guess, I kind of call it BS. Some of it was factual with what they were telling us. Some of it, I think, was not very factual. Regardless, I got older in my 30s and I started thinking about why I was there and what we were doing and what decisions were made in our government that even took us there. So I'm thinking about that now, this whole Iran situation, should we even be involved in this? A lot of people say, yes, we need to go. We need to liberate these people. A lot of people say, no, we don't need to be involved in this whatsoever. There's, a lot of different views and opinions on what's going on. I've been thinking about it from the standpoint of these young men and women that are there now. Do they question why they're there, or just, of course, they're just following orders? I think most of them are just following their orders, thinking, well, this is my job, this is my mission. But I hope more and more soldiers, sailors, airmen think about why are we there, and the geopolitical consequences of our actions as a country. Anyway, I was just thinking about that, and I was thinking about kind of my service. I served in the Army for around 10 years, and when I got out, I was lost, and a lot of the reason is because that was my whole identity. I didn't really know what I was going to do after that. And my whole life had been being a soldier as an adult. And so when I got out, I was like, well, who am I? What am I going to do? What's my identity going to be? And that took me a while to figure out. And it took me a while to separate myself from the military and become a civilian. It was very difficult. The transition is hard because the military is a way of life, not really just a job. And so once you leave that way of life, you carry that with you into your civilian world. I still feel very connected to the military. I work for the VA. I've been with the VA for a long time. And so it's nice being with the VA because I can still feel connected to the military. And, I see veterans every day. And so we get to talk and reminisce about all the, things that we did, or, how we feel about the current situation with, what's going on in the world. But it's nice just to be connected that way. But I think more veterans need to try to stay connected because I think that helps. We don't have to, agree with what we did while we were in the Army, but, we served with others, and, we served honorably, and, I think we did our job and our mission. A lot of times we didn't really realize why we were doing it, but we did it. We were disciplined, and I think that's important. I kind of not really regret, but I kind of maybe am a little bit disappointed with maybe some of the reasons that we get involved in the conflicts and the situations we do. But again, I'm trying not to make this political. I'm just trying to, tell everybody about how I felt when I got out of the military, kind of being, what do I do now? What do I do with my life? And, how the decisions that were made for me as being a soldier affected my life when I got out of the military. If you have any stories or comments or things that you might want to add to this conversation, feel free to add things in the comments so there can be further discussion. I think veterans need to stay connected with each other. It was our way of life for a long time, and it's just nice being around other veterans and having that support system. It's also nice knowing that's part of my life, not all of it.